The toughest thing actually was and by doing the show, is actually by disconnecting from the broader, because in traditional media, the way it works is we used to go on Fox. When you're in Fox, it's like an ecosystem. You're in the green room, there's all the other conservatives that are around you, and then there's all these other people who work in conservative Inc., like conservative world. And if you can't dissent. And actually the best, most rewarding part of our show is we're not connected to the system anymore. I'm like, I don't give a shit. They're like, I don't really appreciate what you see, Trump's person or whatever, some Trump flacky is like, you didn't say this about President Trump. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'm like, what are you going to do? You're going to take me off Fox? I don't care. I don't actually want to be on Fox. I'm like, I could be on my own show. But being disconnected from the broader DC machine, it totally frees you up for conversation on Stop the Steal. Anything that's controversial. And I just be like, I think this is bullshit. I truly, 100% guys, I believe this is bullshit. And I see commentators out there who I know don't believe what they're saying and are saying it because they have to. They have to maintain their context. They have to maintain their
100%.
salary.
100%.
That's the corruption.
That's horrible.
Is it.
Yeah.
That is it.
And that's like a self-imposed corruption if you're doing that online.
Yes.
And some people are doing it online.
True.
And you guys are not, and I really appreciate it. I know that if I'm watching you guys, I'm getting real opinions. I'm getting well thought out, informed opinions, and and you guys are going to be cool to each other.
I mean, we do take it really seriously, and I think we take it this year even more so than ever. Our biggest podcast download and our biggest YouTube numbers last year were right when Russia invaded Ukraine. And you talk about a high-stakes situation where it's very difficult to sort through all the propaganda to really figure out what's going on. And, we were trying our best to do that in real time. And the fact that so many people came to us to try to understand this conflict and what the U.S.'s role in it, what it should be, that really meant a lot, number one. But it also, I think, put on both of our shoulders a real sense of, all right, we got to make sure we're on top of our shit. We got to read as much as we possibly can. We need to go back and look at Russian nuclear doctrine and just go as deep as we possibly, are capable of on this topic. Because there are a lot of people who tell us we're it in terms of the news that they consume. So we have shifted to focusing, we still do fun and stupid and silly topics or whatever and indulge whatever our little hobby horse interests are. But we've shifted the program somewhat to do more hard news because we care about it, because it's important, because there are a lot of people who are looking to us to understand what's going on in the world. And also because ultimately, if there's going to be an alternative to the, liars and propagandists at places like CNN and Fox News and MSNBC and some of the mainstream print outlets as well, you're going to have that kind of, serious coverage of hard news events that people feel like they can trust what you're presenting them. And listen, we say all the time, sometimes we're going to fuck up. Sometimes we're going to be wrong about something. We're going to predict something. It doesn't happen, whatever. That is going to happen 100% of the time, but what you can count on us for is we're always going to come back, we're going to correct it, we're going to own up to the mistakes, and we are trying from the beginning our very best to sort through what the truth of the situation is.
Yeah, every 6 months I do a monologue. I'm like, here's everything I got wrong. I was totally wrong about
People
this.
love it too.
Totally wrong
They
about
love
that.
it.
And I'm like, here was my thought process at the time. I'm like, I didn't think this was going to happen, but man, Ukraine has been a doozy. I'm like, we've said some controversial shit over the last couple of years. I've never experienced the level of pushback than going against the Ukraine narrative. That is number one, the most controversial topic I have ever seen discussed yet in politics.
That my favorite moment of the beginning of the Ukraine conflict was Candace Owens having a Twitter battle with the New York Times.
Oh, yes.
Where the New York Times says to Candace Owens, where are you getting your information from that they're corrupt in Ukraine?
Corruption, yeah.
And she goes, your newspaper? And then she puts all these different links that show all the different stories from as recently as 2017 that talked about the immense corruption in Ukraine. What the fuck is wrong with you guys? You're supposed to be the New York Times!
This is one of the primary ways that we've been gaslit in this conflict is and it just came out, I don't know if you saw this, you probably did, that Zelensky fired a bunch of his cabinet officials over corruption. And it was they were taking these fancy vacations to Europe. One of them was accused of basically overcharging the military for meals. And remember, the amount that we have sent to Ukraine and propping up not only their military, but their government, their economy, et cetera, when they're taking that money, that's like coming directly out of the U.S. taxpayer pocket. And nobody reported on any of this until Zelensky fired people. And then we were allowed to be like, yeah, there's some problems with corruption there, maybe a little bit. Maybe we should like worry a little bit about where the weapons are going and what exactly is happening there. But before then, you weren't allowed to say it.
Even better, the Times actually changed its headline. They were like, Ukraine goes corruption drive. And it was like, Zelensky aims to stamp out corruption, just to make it a little bit less like the appearance. I have some fun numbers for everybody. This is from a past monologue I've done. U.S. aid currently at $100 billion is double what the entire rest of the world has given to Ukraine. In 1 year, surpasses what we gave the Afghan military in 20 years. The total amount to Ukraine now exceeds all U.S. military aid to the country of South Vietnam between 1956 and 1975.
Wow.
$100 billion.
And listen, I think what Russia did was wrong. I think it's an atrocity. I think the Ukrainian cause is just. But the total lack of debate, the lack of willingness to say, like, hey, when we got into this, what you sold to the American people was you were going to provide defensive weapons only so Ukraine could defend itself. Now we're sending tanks. Now we're sending, it just came out, longer range missiles. These were things that were totally off the table. And then suddenly, step by step by step, not only are they on the table, but you're not allowed to question it. You're not allowed to say, hey, guys, are we setting ourselves up for World War III here? Which is something the president himself was talking about not very long ago, and yet no debate. And that's the thing that, you know, however you feel about the Ukraine conflict and, you know, the build up to it and how we got here and all of those things, I think at the very base level, the total lack of an ability to have dissent and debate and understand the potential consequences of what we're doing, that is fucking terrifying, because we are talking about a nuclear armed superpower that we are engaged in a proxy war with, and you're basically not allowed to say, hey, how does this end? What do we need to do to try to get to a negotiated settlement here? How do we avoid having a conflict with this nuclear armed superpower? World War III seems like a bad thing to have on the table right now.
And you guys are one of the few voices of reason that will say that agree on both sides of the fence.